fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, crime, LGBT, thriller.
You have now entered the House of Mystery.
Welcome back into the House of Mystery. Of course, I'm Al Warren, and we've got Smoker Joe.
I might do something this week. It's a block party weekend. And
Block party?
So our block has had a block party.
Oh.
Well, they did it 20 years before we came here. We came in the early 90s, so this is like a long time. And every third Saturday in July, and the kids come back. They bring all their kids. It's kind of like a reunion.
Yeah.
So it's a good time to smoke up some wings or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good thing. You'd be smoking. Well,
Wings.
The thing,
chop them up, let them dry.
You got to do something too. Now there's no more P. Diddy parties for you to go to.
No, that's right. But he's out, so you never know.
Well,
I go to JD parties. That's what I'll do. Not P. Diddy.
Oh, you get invited. I never get invited to anything.
Well, you're not one of us, right?
Yeah. Well, you know how it is. Not even a block party. They move it. They move to a different block.
Yeah. They voted you off the block.
Yeah, that's it. Well, maybe JD will help me out.
Well, he's a party man.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Sadly, that's what I've heard. I'm not a big party person myself, but we throw a lot of fundraisers that are much larger than. I'm comfortable up to 8 people if I'm one of those 8 people, and my spouse brings in 200 people. So it's like I've learned just to focus and get through the evening, but at least he enjoys them.
Yeah.
Not a crowd guy, me either.
No. 2 or 3 dogs.
Honestly, if you want me to have a good time at a party, you're going to have a dog there for me because I will sneak off with the dog. We'll have a good time, good chat, good petting, and that'll be my fun.
Yeah, that's what I do. Call me over. I'll walk your dogs while you party.
Yeah, because you're not invited.
Yeah, because I'm not invited. I'm the dog walker, and then I'll clean up the mess afterwards. I'm good at that. Well, anyway. Well, speaking of that, so what's been going on with Mr. JD or Jack Horn? It's been a while since we talked to you, and I know you're a big writer in kind of the fantasy, occult, suspense, somewhat horror, and you've done quite well at it. But now I understand that you're going to make some changes.
I am. I have been making some changes. I loved writing horror. I loved writing contemporary fantasy, but 8 books on, I kind of feel that at least for now, I've said all I've got to say in that genre or in those genres. And I've often I've long been attracted to mystery. I love mysteries. What I tend to read are mysteries. And I wanted to try my hand at one. And so I'm setting aside my nom de plume, J.D. Horn, and I'm writing this one under Jack Douglas Horn. It is with the intent of showing my readers there's a separation because I know some people who like the fantasy and horror will not be interested in this. People who are interested in fantasy but not horror may avoid it otherwise. So I'm putting a clear demarcation that it's me. If you like my characters, if you like my writing style, if you like just the craziness of it all, you'll enjoy it. But it's a different genre.
What made you go to mystery? Kind of, is there something particular about that genre that you like or you wanted to get into somehow, or what drew you there? I
have been a fan of mystery since I think it was my 7th birthday, and someone bought me the Encyclopedia Brown collection of books, and so it's been a long-standing thing with me reading mystery, but I love the puzzles of it, but I also love the sort of exaggerated humanity of it, where you see in a very few pages, basically, someone at their best and at their worst all at once. And I enjoy reading mysteries. I especially love like Anne Cleeve's mysteries. She is probably my biggest influence when it comes to writing my mysteries. I love the way her characters are all so relatable and realistic, but there's an underlying darkness to them that I just find very interesting, very attractive.
It's real life to me. There's always something dark waiting to happen. even at one of the parties, yeah. Even at Smoker Joe's party.
Well, especially in his neighborhood, right?
Yeah, because we're all so peppy and young. We've been
Yeah. You gotta be careful. Take the dog out for a walk. No, so do you find it different writing the characters in mystery as compared to more fantasy horror?
I don't find the characters necessarily different for writing because I actually I wanted to bring the sort of layered character work from my speculative fiction into the mysteries, but what is different for me is the plotting, because I have always been a pantser. I sort of like dive in and I write and I see what comes out of it. With this, I definitely moved into the plotter category because I had to know sort of the who and the why and the how, and that sort of drove so much of the ancillary characters. So with mystery, I find it's much more plot driven than with my fantasy horror books, because those you can ride the wave. These you have to have a logical explanation.
Well, JD, let me ask a question. I know there's a structure for mystery. They have to be this act, this act. Do you follow that structure, or how do you piece it together? Because I've kind of got that sort of going on too, and I'm trying. How do I drop the hint and take it away? How do you structure that? How do you see it?
I am sort of relying on what I've learned from my editors over the years, that there are points just with any novel where something has to happen to keep pulling the reader along. So I haven't consciously followed any blueprint, but beyond that, but I do know just from the number of mysteries that I've read sort of at what point you need to start putting in clues so the reader won't feel at the end that you cheated them, because you have to give the reader a chance to follow along and figure it out. And when they get to the end, for them to go back and say, oh, yeah, I see that now. And, early stages, we've not gone through full edits yet, but it survives in basically the form it is now. I've got some real Easter egg clues, right? In the first 2 chapters, I tell you who did it and why, but it's kind of like an Easter egg clue version. So it's like if you're sort of paying attention to what I'm saying without actually saying it, you're going to be like, oh, this is the person who did it and this is why they did it. So I think that was fun. A lot of fun for me because I've tossed in a few Easter egg things that I think after the reader finishes, they'll be able to go back and say, oh, that's what that meant. So, do
you want them to be able to figure it out, or do you just want to trick them all the way to the end?
Of course not. I want them not to know until if I reveal it to them. But I think part of the fun is with a mystery, it's always a competition between the reader and the writer, and you want to make it a fair competition, but you really don't want anyone to guess until you get to the end. You want them, to get that surprise. There's Russ Thomas, who does the Adam Tyler series. His first book in that series, Fire Watching, he lays a couple of hints in that very early on, and when you finally get to the revelation, it's like, oh. And the thing is that's what I want to give my readers, is the feeling that, you've had ample hints, ample clues to figure out who it is, but part of the fun is not figuring it out for some people like me. I really want to be surprised. Some people really want to make an effort to get it. So far, thank goodness, none of my beta readers actually figured it out, and they were both satisfied with the conclusion I provided, but also it wasn't exactly what they were expecting. So I think that makes me feel good about the entire process.
So do you keep that from your main character as well, some of the events? Like, does your reader know things your main characters might not know? Is that suspense sort of thing?
Great question. Great question.
That is a great question. When I first started writing, as with many writers, I wrote in first person. And after you do that a couple times, you realize how limiting it is. And from that point, I moved into close third person. So you're seeing everything sort of from Simon. He's the detective, Simon Beck. You're seeing everything sort of from his perspective, but he doesn't know anything more than the reader does at any given point. He finds out at the same point that the reader does that, well, almost. He figures out a little bit before the reader who actually is responsible for the murder in the book. So No, he doesn't know. The reader, the reader's coming along. Simon's sort of taking the readers along with him, so they don't get to see anything more until he actually realizes what's going on himself.
Yeah, it's always an interesting, because some people do it one way or the other, and they can both be great.
Well, like Josh Mullins, oh gosh, I'm so terrible with my memory. His book, And There He Kept Her. That's sort of what you're saying, because you know exactly with that one. It's more suspense. There's mystery to it, but it's more suspense than mystery, I think, the first one, because you know exactly who's responsible. You know exactly what's going on. But Ben, the detective, the sheriff, the acting sheriff in his series, sort of has to follow along. So the reader is actually far ahead, and that's where the suspense is, that you're hoping that Ben will catch up in time. With my book so far with this series, I kind of intended to be more of a classic mystery where the detective is always, of course, the smartest person in the room, but it takes the detective a while to figure out, to put the pieces together.
Yeah, I call that going Columbo versus Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
Because no one Columbo, how is he going to figure it out, as opposed to who did it? And I've been battling that idea myself. I'm almost done. I'm still battling the idea of, I keep writing back and giving it away everything's in first person from different characters' point of view.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't say that, because that will tell the reader something that they shouldn't know before they should know it. And it's like, oh man, that gets a little bit grindy. So
it's tricky. You're braver than I don't think I could write multiple first persons. At least not convincingly.
I don't know if I can.
So you're braver than I.
We'll see how. I don't know if I can either. We'll see how it goes. It ain't out yet.
Yeah, see what happens. Well, so with your characters, what's your experience? Like, I don't think I've asked you this one before, but how is it you experience your characters, your main characters? Do you see them in your mind? Do you have kind of a picture of them? Do you feel them? Do you hear the voice for that person? And do you know what I mean? So what's your process when you write these characters?
My character, okay, so my agent once said to me, she's like, my other authors, they don't do it this way. They create characters and they write them and have them do things. My characters are very strong-willed. They become very real to me, and I negotiate with them. I actually treat them almost as co-creators. I will present ideas that I would like to have work for them, and quite often they will tell me no. And that is my favorite thing. When a character tells me no, I know somebody's there, and I know there's a real energy that is willing to do something special with me. And I think that the more, I joke sometimes that if I ever get my medication adjusted, my career as a writer is over. But I live with these characters. They get in my head. They somehow feel like they're more than me, and I try to give them a chance to become. And I think so far that's worked really well with me, because I think the readers who followed my earlier books will say that my characters are quite alive. And so I've tried to bring that same kind of energy to the mystery genre.
Yeah. Do you wake up but in the middle of the night with bloody shoes by the bed or something like that?
I'm going to plead the fifth on that one.
Good answer there. Let me ask, let's stick on character though. You're known in your early books, you had a lot of strong women lead characters.
Mm-hmm.
Which my main character is a strong woman lead character, first person. So help me, JD. But now you're switching over to Simon, who I'm assuming is a guy.
Simon's a guy.
Okay, so tell me how it is. And this cliche question, but it really is important. How you write the female character not as a character, but as a person in your strong, and how you flipped it over now to a male lead.
Well, the answer about writing a convincing female character, I think for me has always been asking women, like, say, this is what I'm wanting to do. What would your reaction be to this? How would you react in this moment? I think to some level, as a human being, you should be able to empathize with everyone else, regardless of the race, the gender, anything else about that person. But I do think that you owe it, if you're writing about someone, to write about them in a respectful way by reaching out to people like your character and saying, does this work? Is this stupid? This is something that you would actually believe that you would do. The one time that surprised me actually was around a purse, because I had just had this casual, it's just a side thing about a woman shoving her purse under a counter, and I was informed that this was not something she would do. And so I'm like, oh, as just this guy, I would never think twice about it. But evidently, it's the little things like that you don't think about that is really, it's invaluable to talk to someone from that experience. So the good thing for me about Simon is that to some degree, I've always felt like I've ridden through a filter. I have had a lot of multiple female characters, especially in lead roles. And I've loved writing those characters, but this for me is incredibly freeing because I get to write about a gay man as a gay man, and a lot of things that, of course, there's no such thing as a single experience, but I'm able to take what I know from my own life and sort of from my own opinions and from my own expectations and filter it through Simon. What's funny, again, though, is that quite often Simon will disagree with me, and that shows you how crazy I am, because I will take one viewpoint on something, and he'll be like, well, yeah, but what about this? So it's a nice chance to bring sort of my own energy into it, where I can be the sort of the expert on this character, and it's the first time I've had the chance to write a character that I feel that I can intimately know inside and out. I understand what makes him tick, and I understand why he reacts the way he does in situations, and I don't have to worry about having him do something that a gay man wouldn't do, because it's something he's very much in some level like me. He's very different in other ways, but at least I feel much more grounded in the character.
Right. Are you writing in current time period, or what time?
I am. It is sort of nowish. I'm trying to avoid too many calendar events that would, force it into one particular year, but it's kind of now. And what's really fun about this story is that I've written about Savannah, obviously. I've written about New Orleans. I love both those cities. This is the first time I've ever written about where I live. This is set in Palm Springs, and I live part-time in Palm Springs, part-time in San Francisco. This whole thing got started because right before COVID started, I was out walking my dog, crazy little Ray Chihuahua. There are several hiking trails that come off in the hills in our neighborhood. And there's one that has a very small, super small gravel parking lot. And when I was walking Kirby past, I noticed, I'm like, oh, you can't see the parking lot from anywhere from the street. And of course, being a writer, the next thought is, oh, you could dump a body there and it'd take a while for people to find it. And so that was actually the first thought that kicked off the story. So I have the murder happen in my neighborhood. I have one of the characters who is also a writer, but who is nothing like me. I only wish that, because he's like this, he's a writer who writes these super successful testosterone-driven kind of novels that Tom Cruise is going to make the movie version of. But he lives in my house. And so it's kind of fun to play with the personal aspects of it. I have just so many things things I know about the city. And I've hung around, my main character is a cop, a homicide detective here in Palm Springs. And so I've got to hang around with the police here, and I've actually become pretty good friends with the chief of police, who has been so generous with his time and advice. There's a scene in the book that I feel I should almost give him co-writing credit for, because it's a fairly complex scenario, but he laid out for me step by step, if this were happening in the real world, what would happen, who would do what would the outcome be, just perfectly. So it was the easiest I've ever had writing a chapter, because he gave me the complete outline.
Well, let's stick with the reader you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Since you think about them all the time, you think about your characters, they're talking to you, are there things that your characters say to you that you say, nah, I don't like that because my reader's not going to like that?
I honestly have never had that experience of it going the other way. I've had my characters tell me that I'm asking something of them they don't want to do. most recently with Simon, so I am writing this with the hopes of taking it into a series. And so I introduce a character, and I can't say who it is because this character is one of the prime suspects. This character is, someone that I had intended to become a foil for Simon, and perhaps even become like a more of a romantic relationship. And Simon just said no. I am not seeing this guy. He's a terrible person. I don't want to be involved with him. And so this is one of the things we negotiated. It's like, okay, well, I need this to happen. How far can I take this? But he was just laying down the rules. And I think if I trust my characters, my readers will like what's happening because it'll feel organic. I don't think that they'll feel that they're being cheated or something's forced in there that doesn't belong. You always try to please your readers because you want them to enjoy the experience. But I think that for me, the story has to flow in and of itself. So I've never put on the brakes for my readers, except, as we were discussing before, I usually try to moderate language because I know some people are very offended by like F-bombs. I am of the generation, I'm of, sort of the background that they don't register with me. But in my other books, I've really tried to avoid any language that someone might find, like the bad words, the four-letter words. There's this one character in this book that it may not make it through an editor, but she is so foul-mouthed and it fits the character. And at this point, I'm having trouble seeing her not dropping F-bombs. So part of the reason why I am writing this under my full real name, Jack Douglas Horn, is that I want to provide a sign that this is different from what I've done before. So a few red flags, you're going to see different things, things you may or may not like, things you may or may not be comfortable with. But I just want people to know that it's the J.D. Horn zone for if I go back to writing any more horror or fantasy, which I'm sure I will at some point, it's going to fit in with what I've done before. But this is a different thing. So it's a way for me to explore, and I'm not going to be inserting like violence that isn't really necessary. I'm not going to be inserting language that I don't feel is absolutely necessary. But it's not going to be quite as safe for some readers as my other books.
Main characters, and with you writing this style of book, and I guess you've pretty much completed the first book now. Do you think that it has a different effect on you than what your other books have had because you're so close to this character, or as in you can relate to the character? He has a lot of the same things that you do in his life.
This is actually by far the most personal book for me because all of the characters, even the bad people, they all have something. I've been joking with people that I took all my neuroses and sort of divvied them up and passed them out to my characters, but they're exaggerated versions of me in some way. But I have very close emotional responses to every single character, the good, the bad, the ugly, because there's a grain of truth about me in each one of them. In the past, like you would have 2 or 3 characters who really felt like they were connected to me. In this one, all of the characters, even the character who is the victim, there's a lot in him that was in younger me. So I think that it's almost like if you took all these characters and jammed them together, the Frankenstein monster you would end up would be me. So it's very personal, and it's risky on that level too, because especially now with somebody here that I've said that, they're like, oh my God, has he done that? He's done that. He's done. No, I haven't necessarily done that, but I may have done something very close to it. I've left enough sort of emotional space for me to feel safe, but there's a lot of honesty in this book that hasn't been in the others.
The honest character who's a lot like you, did you have that character before you had the story, or did you just have a story you fit you into it?
No, everything grew out of Simon because he's a central character and everything has to fit his world. This is embarrassing to admit. For me, Simon, it's really embarrassing. Yeah. If Simon is like, if I could have picked the man I wanted to be, if I could like set this guy up and just be that person, Simon is the guy I would have been. He is a lot stronger, better looking, and just braver than I could ever be. But he is sort of like the idealized version of who I would have liked to have been. And so when I take that, and I take that person and I make him vulnerable, and I put in, because the character has a pretty horrific past that he happened from his childhood that he's had to sort of make his way through. Everything ties into him. So almost everything is a reflection. And I even play with that at some points because people keep pointing out to him that he looks something like the guy who's been killed. And in a way, I'm using that to show that he's looking at, he's seeing his own death, he's seeing his own mortality, he's also seeing the young man he could have been under different conditions. So, to some degree, that's me. It's like Simon is the guy I might have been under different conditions. If the right things had been nurtured and the other things had been sort of, not nurtured. Not that either side is necessarily bad, but I don't know. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a great character. I actually, I like most of my characters. There are some I really love, like I love Mercy and I love Jilo, but Simon he has my heart. And I hope that people will take him for, it's almost like with the new Superman movie. I don't know if you've seen it. I don't know if you've heard any of this stuff on the internet, but I love the new Superman movie because he's so kind and he's so generous and he's so earnest. And to some degree, that earnestness is the same that I've tried to bring to Simon, where, Superman saves a squirrel while the world's falling down. He somehow managed to do it. I wish Simon were capable of saving the squirrel while the building's falling down. It's the kind of thing. It's like, it's the same sort of kindness being king, or as they were saying in the Superman movie, kindness is the new punk rock. So Simon's very, he's got some dark sides. He's got a lot of anger. He has a lot of anger. But base at his core, there's not a mercenary thing to him. He is kind. He is brave. And he is trying to do the right thing in a world where a lot of people disagree about what the right thing is. So you really have to tie into your own kind of moral center. And he's got a very strong moral center, and that's what I love about him.
Is there a subtext, a meaning under the story here that you're trying to get the reader to pick up? Maybe
it isn't preachy. It isn't like political or anything. But the subtext is that we have to make room for each other. That we are not going to agree on everything. That things that we have to find a way to at least respect to make room for each other, whether we like each other or not. And that comes through a lot through the relationship between Simon and another one of the detectives, which was very difficult to write. This other detective, her name is Daniela Jordan. It was difficult to write her because I intended her to be much more of a villainous character. But as I examined what she was saying, what she was doing, her attitudes, I'm like, she isn't wrong. And I see why a rational human being would react this way in this situation. And I started liking her. And so she started becoming more of a complete character. But the problem for me was that she and Simon really like each other. They, and I'm like, kids, you can't play. You have to hate each other for 100 more pages, So I'm looking forward to, being able to play this out to the next few books, because the truth of the matter is that they're very different. They come from different backgrounds. They have different attitudes, but they're both fundamentally truly decent people. It's like, okay, I'm having dinner with my neighbors tonight, and we are very different, but we love each other. If you were to look at how we vote, at how, we stand for different things, you would say, how could these people be friends? It's because I know they are decent people, and besides, we love each other's dogs madly, so that helps. But we're so divided in the world. We're so divided. I mean, even in the what we call the LGBTQ community, which I'm not really, it's so divided. Even I'm not crazy about calling it that. But I think that we've got to make room for each other, and that's the subtext of it, is that you're always going to find something to be outraged about, but you're never going to be happy if you live in outrage.
Right. So much of the country is that way right now. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. Well, so when can we expect something new? When's this all going to take place, do you think?
Okay, that's what a lot of people who are readers who don't have the experience writing. This is the shocking thing for them. Okay, so my agent, when she takes the book out, let's assume that a miracle happens and an acquiring editor wants it. Okay. So once that happens, you're looking at least a year to 18 months. So if it were to be picked up in January of 2026, you're probably looking at mid-2027 to late 2027 before you would ever even start getting an inkling that it's coming out. So it's a long lead time, but this is the one thing that I think people don't tell you about writing a book when you first start writing, is that it is a team effort. So first, your agent reads through and makes sure it's something that he or she thinks they can sell. Then it goes out to the editors, and if they like it, they're going to have changes. They're going to have suggestions. So you spend time working through it with the developmental editor. Then after that, you have another set of editors who sort of they read it line by line to make sure that the language is clear and that you're saying what you want it to say. And then you go through like the copy editors at the end to make sure that everything is spelled right, everything is punctuated correctly. And then you go into with the marketing people. And so there's a whole group of people. You have the PR people, the marketing people, and it's a huge, you are part of a team. You may have, been there at the beginning, but you're not the CEO and you are the creative, but you have a lot of other people who actually take your work and make it into a book that people on the outside get to read it. So that was the surprise for me going in with my first book, is how many people are actually involved. And the thing is that you have to understand every single person along this line. They are all rooting for you. They're all rooting for that book. And so sometimes, what they suggest will just be, oh my God, really? Okay, so I will share this. My first book, The Line, somebody from marketing wanted to call it A Witch in a Prayer. And I'm like, oh no, we can't do that. But that's the only time I've ever really been hit by an idea that was just so alien to me. Most of the time, especially when you're dealing with your editors, I have this period. Okay, so I get notes back from my editor, and the first thing you get is like everything's red. Everything's red. And you think, oh my God, this person thinks I'm an idiot. This person thinks I'm, the worst writer ever. And the next step for me, okay, so that's sort of the denial. And then I move into anger. It's like, well, they should understand, blah, 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 blah. And then finally, when the ego sort of settles down, I'm like, oh God, they're right about 99% of this. And so it's always a process of staying humble, but still standing up for what you believe in. So, nobody's going to know your characters better than you. Nobody's going to know the circumstances better than you. But most of the time, if an editor, an experienced editor says to you, this doesn't feel right, or perhaps the good one for me is like, maybe you need to condense this a little, because I usually do need to condense. As my agent will tell you, I do need to condense. But yeah, no, it's just, that's the biggest thing for me, is that you don't realize what a process it is. You think it's all about you, and at the end you realize how little of that was you by the time the book is out in the store.
It is all about me. What are you talking about?
Well, yeah, of course, it's actually all about my chihuahua. Yeah.
Well, this is great. So listen, let's give out all your contact information, or social medias and website and everything that you have, so listeners can find you and look you up.
Well, the easiest thing to do is, if you want to find my website, just go to jackdouglaswarren.com. It will connect you to everything I'm doing. Like I'm writing a musical. It looks like it's going to be staged. So that was the best surprise for me. And I'm on Instagram. I'm not on other social media. I've tried other social media, but it's just too angry for me. I just can't do it. So I like Instagram because I get a lot of pictures of dogs and cats, and that's my happy space. So You can find me on Instagram and on my website.
Well, fantastic. Of course, we'll put that up on our site as well so people can find you. And, when you get the book done and you need an actor to play the role, Joe is looking.
Yes.
I was thinking, this is my lead. I'm just seeing the picture like, this is the guy.
Picture of a happy gray-haired overweight Jewish guy from Iowa as your character.
Yeah, it fits.
Yeah. I've been to Palm Springs, so that's okay.
Then you're a natural. So.
That's all it takes, yeah. Well, listen, we appreciate you coming on the show, talking about writing and what's going on with you, and what can we say? J.D. Horn.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome, and thank you. We've got J.D. Horn, or we call Jack Douglas Horn, depending on what side of what angle you want to take. So, appreciate it.
Thank you.
This has been a production of the House of Mystery Radio Show. To find out more about our show, guests, or hosts, go to our website at houseofmysteryradio.com.